Yeah, so I've known Kat for a long time since the Manasquan Brielle Little League days of Mr. Margulies Astros. You know, when we hit our 20s, you know, I mentioned in that first clip, I remember being at the UL and like, you were like, I don't know where you were, but you were like maybe at IBM at that point, and you just like weren't pumped about it. And I was in the city because I had just graduated, right, and I was working for that media company, and I was like grinding back and forth, and I couldn't afford to live in the city, and I was just like, dude, this sucks. And I remember talking to her, and you're like, yeah, dude, I just want to live on a pirate ship. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And you know, and I was just like, dude, like, there's got to be a better way. And it seemed like you found a better way.
Well, first, thanks for having me. This is exciting. This is actually my first podcast. So
really,
yeah.
Oh, man, we're having fun. Yeah, this is cool. Really, like taking that, like, and maybe like turning down the gig, doing the traveling, then getting the IBM gig, and then like kind of taking that leap of like, I can't, like, I need to kind of do my own thing.
Right. So I guess it all starts, you know, my upbringing. My father was, you know, he was in the clothing business, and then he got into accounting and became a CFP. And he always like raised me to be like this businessman in New York City. Like he wanted me to work on Wall Street or be an investment banker.
Yep.
That was a condition into me to like go to college and like do something big and be in a city and like make a lot of money. And for some reason, I think it's him pushing me in that direction that made me want to go a different direction. And plus, I always had this like fascination for science, and I had like both the left brain and the right brain activated, where I was like kind of artistic, but also like into business and stuff. Like,
sure.
It was those two sides of my mind were always like kind of fighting each other. And so, I guess at the end of high school, you know, our friend, you know, our mutual friend Bitzer, you know, he was like became a professional bodyboarder.
Yeah.
And he had approached me to make him a website because I'd gotten into web design. So I helped him with a website, and then we decided to like, you know, I love the ocean, I love surfing, and he convinced me to come out down to Mexico one time, and I got like hooked on that whole surf world. But in the meantime, I had been, you know, I went to school. I was following the path that my dad and my parents had taught me to go down to. So I went to Wake Forest for 2 years, and I transferred to Lehigh, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, like whether I become a businessman or what else is out there. And I had this huge like web design background. Yeah. So, you know, IBM came around recruiting, and I went to one of the meetings, and it sounded like a good path for me. It was like not quite the investment banking thing in New York City, but it was something interesting and, you know, involving technology and a bit of my background. So it was a consulting gig, actually, specifically for a platform called SAP, which allows companies to kind of run their accounting on a huge scale, like big multi-international. So anyway, I got a job offer with them pretty quickly, right after I graduated Lehigh. Actually, I got the job offer while I was in Europe. I was backpacking through Europe with Bitzer, and they called me. I got the job offer somewhere over the phone, and I turned it down because I was like, I don't want to start work right now. I just worked my ass off in school for however many years. I want to like go do some fun stuff. And so I came back from Europe, had this summer off, thought I was going to be this big surf photographer. Bitzer's like, you got to come out to Hawaii. Like, let's do this. Let's make some cool videos. So I get out to Hawaii, and I run out of money really fast. And like reality sets in. It's like, wow, I have to do something. Like I got to finance this. I have no idea how to sell surf photography and surf videos. And so Bitzer stayed in Hawaii. I left, and then I accepted the job offer. It was like midwinter. Started the job. Went into training. Was in Philadelphia for a month, like learning SAP. They put me at Johnson & Johnson Healthcare, which is in North Jersey. And I remember like my first day, like this is my first big job. I'm commuting, sitting in all the traffic, like listening to Howard Stern on the radio. Yeah. I was like, wow, I'm a commuter. Like, this is everything I said I wouldn't do, and I'm doing it. I remember my first day in the office, I was so scared. And the client manager on the Johnson & Johnson side, I'd met him at the beginning of the day. And I remember being so scared about getting home with the traffic that I sent him an email around 2:00. I'm like, hey, man, I might leave at 3 to beat the traffic. And he didn't reply. And I knew he was just like, oh, this young kid, like straight out of college, like what a novice, like newbie, like it's like yeah, it's just like making his own time. Yeah, so that was like my first day in a real job, and then I got used to it, and I actually did really well there. They loved me, and I found a loophole with the consulting world that you can tell them that you move somewhere else in the country, and then they fly you in and get your rental car in a hotel every week. So a friend of mine from college had just gotten a house down in Florida. And I was like, oh, so I told them I moved to Florida. They're like, oh, cool. Well, we like the work you do, so we're just going to fly you up every week and give you a hotel and a rental car. And I did that for 6 months, and the project was really successful. Did everything great. Yeah, the project ended, and then they're like, okay, your next assignment is Campbell Soup in Camden, New Jersey. And then that was like a whole new first day of a job, like almost, because the consulting world, you just project to project. Mm-hmm. And I get there, and it was like the most depressing situation you could possibly imagine. Like the client was like unhealthy dude, overweight, ate Popeyes for lunch. I remember our first lunch, he went to Popeyes. He was like getting a greasy cheeseburger, and like he's talking about how depressed he was, and it's like I was half closed, and he's like, I got diabetes, and like, jeez. And he was telling us about like bullets coming through the windows like every now and then. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna be working here for the next I don't have no clue how long. And my manager on the IBM side, the consulting side, he was also quite depressing. And he was like, and he gave me this job to do. He said, you now have to figure out how to move these tax accounts between Canada and the US and like Mexico. It was like some crazy complicated financial problem that I had no clue how to do. And at the time, my dad had multiple sclerosis. He wasn't doing very well. So I was like, I pulled the family medical leave card. I was like, sorry guys, I got to go help my dad. Yeah. And it was like kind of a dirty move, but also at the same time, it was just that moment that I knew that I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. Like I looked up to the partners, the people that have been there for 20, 30 years and how stressed out they were. Like they were like well into their careers and they were not having fun. They were always talking about how stressed they were. Like, yeah. I was like, I do not want to work my ass off to be like that. Yep. And the Campbell Soup moment was like, wow, I just got to get out of here. So in those 3 months, I stumbled across this job within the company that was with HR. And we were doing professional development conferences where we go around the country and we set up these events for people within IBM. IBM has 300,000 employees. It's like this huge ecosystem. It allows employees to go look for other opportunities and like meet other people to build skill sets, and like gives you a door to like a new opportunity within the company. So I did that, and I met a lot of amazing people that were in my situation. And within a year, they shut down the program, but I was still with the company. They were like, all right, what's next for Matt? They put me on this team where we were like developing tools for the IBM Learning program, which serves all 300,000 employees around the world. And we were managing all the classes and like all the records and all this stuff. The biggest thing about that was, we got to work from home, 100% remote.
There it is.
And that was like the best thing for me because
freedom.
Yeah, it was freedom. I could get my work done. I could do it on my own schedule pretty much. I just had to call into some meetings. Never met the people I worked with, which was strange. We had amazing
tools. A lot
of
discipline that goes into that.
Yeah. And it's not easy. Like, but you have to get used to it. And like we had amazing tools that allowed us to do it. And like the internet had just gotten to a point where we were allowed to, take advantage of that.
Right.
So I think it was the time in the information age that like allowed those jobs to start happening. Mm-hmm. Not only within IBM, but other companies. And now you'll see them all over the world that right. A lot of companies are doing.
I just took an online course like last year, and it was like it was strange. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of being able to like sit down and like being like, okay, well, I have to do this like because it needs to get done.
Right.
And nobody like I'm not showing up to a spot and like having somebody look over my shoulder to get it done, and having to do it on my own merit is different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely different than being in an office and having like a manager or a boss being like, oh, we got to get this. And yeah. A lot of self-discipline, but it's a lot of communication.
That's probably very valuable, and that probably shows up in what you're doing now or what it has like down the road, right? Yeah.
It definitely allowed me to like learn a lot about just interacting remote, just learning how to communicate better, especially using technology to do that. And but the biggest thing about that whole job was the work remote thing. So now I was able to take my huge interest in the ocean and surf photography that I had to give up because I ran out of money. It allowed me to get back into it because now I had a steady paycheck. I could get my work done on my schedule. I could be anywhere in the world that I wanted. And that was the most powerful thing for me in the world, is like having that flexibility and that power to be anywhere. And, I was in Jersey in the summer. I was in California. I was in Hawaii. I was basically based between Hawaii and California in the winters. But I would also go like 2 to 3 month trips to like, Europe and South America and Australia and Indonesia. And I was able to get my work done from anywhere. And you just, you arrive in the country and you go to the local phone shop, you get the modem and you plug it in and get my work done. And that was it. But that opened up so many doors because being anywhere you want to be, you can now immerse yourself with the people you want to be around to learn things from. So like I wanted to be be a big, a good surf photographer. So I would be in Hawaii and immerse myself amongst them, or I could like, as the season changed, then I could go to Indonesia, and then I could go follow the surf tour down to Chile or Peru. And that was pretty much what allowed me to start building those networks and meeting those people, and like also gaining those skills that I wanted to.
Yeah, that's so important. I think that I've come to realize, like we were talking about that earlier, like when you want to learn something new, it's like you can read and listen and all, but it's really, you have to engage with people that are like better than you, or
Right.
And more experienced than you, if you're gonna learn anything.
Just watching someone work, like being next to them while they work and seeing the tools they use and how they curate it, like that's an invaluable experience that you can't get necessarily from seeing the finished product. You have to be there where watching someone how they do their process.
Yeah. You're pumped up. You're around these people in Hawaii. You're seeing what they're doing, and like so, now you probably feel like I can do this.
Yeah, and you don't even realize it at first. Like it takes a couple months, years, whatever, to like look back and be like, wow, I learned so much through osmosis, just from being around these people. And it's not just the photography; it's also my surfing too. Mm-hmm. Just watching all these pros and how they react to the wave, and my surfing kind of got better as well. So you just learn from being around, and like there's only so much you can learn from the internet. Like when you're there in person, you see all like the little nuances of how people react to things and how people adjust and do their work. That's so powerful. The ocean in general, like it was such an inspirational thing for me. Like not only loving the way water is as a subject for photography and cinematography, like how beautiful it is, but also just the ocean in general, and surfing and the community that it brings together around the world was like what drove me to do everything. Once you get into that surf world, you start to meet all these amazing people. Like I have some of my best friends around the world are like from Puerto Rico and from Spain and from Australia, and as you build this network out, it becomes this like addictive like world of fun adventure, like that, like it opens up so much opportunity. And every person I met was like a new opportunity. And I'd go stay with friends in Spain for 2 months, and I'd go stay with friends in Australia for a month. And it was that was the thing that drove me. And then on the photography side, you're always like trying to get the shot, and you're always trying to like raise the bar. And when you're competing in the editorial world for like to sell your photos, like you have to keep thinking creatively. You have to keep thinking as different as possible, how to get a new perspective. And it just drives that creativity to a new level, like because that's like you're literally like trying to like put food on the table through creativity. Right. I'd wake up in the morning and like pipe was firing, and I was so excited to like just get down there at that first light and like be the first photographer in the water to get that like magical side light and the mist coming through, and it's so fun. And like that whole like cat and mouse game with the waves, and like it can kill you, but it probably won't. And like that the adrenaline rush and the search for the shot, like not only just a beautiful nature shot of a wave, but also like the interaction with the human element. It's just it just becomes a really addictive, fun thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the ocean was like something that I got away from for a portion of my life. I was in a bad spot, and the ocean just was not part of my life. And getting reconnected in the water has absolutely 100% changed my life. It just, like how you said, like there's just like a community, like an adrenaline rush, just a connection with right. The water that is like, which other people do experience in different in their own way. But like right. For me, like that's what it is for me. And I since a young age I've always been obsessed with it. And growing up where we did, like. If you want to get good waves, you gotta surf in the wintertime. You know what I mean? And so like getting back in the water in the wintertime was just like an amazing thing for me in the past couple winters, and it's just been just really beautiful. And
that's a good thing for like your mental health as well, because it's like it kind of represents the edge of the world. And like you can go kind of clear your mind, and you can be by yourself if you want, or you can be with a crowd, but you have that opportunity to kind of go meditate. And it's a one-on-one thing with you in the ocean. It's not like you're out competing with anyone. It's just you enjoying yourself and having fun, and like and like embracing nature and like clearing your mind. And I think that's a really powerful part of it for anyone. And
When was the first time that you got, recognized for your work, and and you were kind of like, all right, this is what I'm going to be doing for some time.
it's a good question. I think I was so into just chasing the shot that I kind of forgot about being recognized. Like I was just like more thinking about it like I have to pay rent this month, so like I have to be just keep trying to create. I was constantly creating content, to the point where I almost like couldn't keep up with it. And you just start to like meet editors, and your work just starts to like, when you start focusing on something, it just starts to naturally kind of bubble up into the surface, like through the editorial world. So I started submitting to like Surfline and Surfer Magazine and Surfing Magazine before it went under, and like Stab Magazine, and you start to like almost think of them as like that's where you get your paycheck from. Like you have to find a way to get the attention of these editors. And like, so just over time I developed these relationships, and I started to get stuff run, and you start to gather like a social media following. And a couple years into it, you start to get to know everyone, you become comfortable, and they've seen your work, you've seen their work, and like people start to accept you for who you are. And
Right.
that's where it becomes like hey, I'm part of this now. Like,
Yeah.
like
Was there any one person that you got the nod from, or you're like, all right, cool?
Not necessarily. I wasn't someone that like necessarily looked up to a certain photographer or surfer. I was just like, it was just more just being in a community that was special to me.
Okay.
There's a couple of photographers that were notable in the world, and they were, that transition from film to digital kind of happened around like 2004 to 2006. So I started on film, but then I moved into the digital world in the water right around that 2005, 2006 mark. And a lot of photographers started to get pushed out because, the prices came down once that digital came out. A lot more competition entered into play. So a lot of the photographers that I looked up to in the surf mags over the years kind of had to kind of go their own way. And they were in their mid to late 30s and ready for new adventures. So the culture that I moved into in Hawaii was a bunch of new guys. And even on the surfing side, like being able to like be next to Kelly Slater and all the world champions, and then they're talking to you, and like they get a good wave and they're swimming past you, and they're like, oh man, that was awesome. We're like, oh man, that wipeout hurt. Like, and you can interact with them. Like it's like being on the football field, like
Talking to the athletes, right? Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like being at Giant Stadium, and like when someone throws a touchdown, and you're like, and the guy's just walking past you, and you can high five him,
That's
and like
super sick.
it's like one of the only sports where that kind of happens, and you can build that camaraderie in the water. And I eventually got to a point at IBM where like I had built this amazing system for them, and they let me take on it. They let me build a team in India, and I was training them on this software that I built for the company. So they sent me to India, and that was like an eye-opening experience. Just being able to go there and see how India worked and that whole world. It was really cool. So I took some time off, traveled there, did some surfing, and then at the end of that year, I just kind of felt like it was time to like I had the experience and the network that I needed to like go full-time creative.
That's really cool.
And I remember leaving my job in I think it was like March of 2012. Yeah, and just feeling that feeling of freedom, or not necessarily. I was already kind of free, but like just like that open road.
Yeah.
Feeling where like
nothing's holding you back
I'm
now.
cutting off my income. I have to make it work. And,
now, is there any fear in that feeling?
Yeah, and I think that fear is a good thing because it drives you to do something.
For sure.
It's like the fight or flight, and you get that feeling from cutting yourself off financially, but you also get that feeling from showing up in a different country, fresh off a plane with like $1,000 in your bank account, no place to stay. What do you do? Like it forces you to survive, and like it forces you to do things, and like it also forces you to meet people and interact and like communicate. And like that's some of the best relationships that I've formed were from having that fight or flight feeling of survival, like just like making it happen, like knowing that I have a goal and going to do it no matter what, and like figuring it out along the way.
Taking that leap, man, is one of the, like you said, one of the most freeing things. But there's fear there, and just there's just so much emotion in that moment when you're just like, all right, this is what I'm doing. And then you can carry that, right? You can carry that emotion. You can carry that's the momentum. And then you hit that wall, right?
Yep.
And where you need to stay motivated when it doesn't look great. when you're not sure about how it's going to play out, when you're doing things and you're being confident, but it's just what's happening in your life doesn't look that way.
And I like to bring up the big wave analogy. When you're dropping into a big wave, like, it's scary. You're like, oh shit, what's about to happen to me? And like, half the time you're not going to make it and you'll get held down, but you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
When the times that you do make it, it's the best day of your life.
Yeah.
Like you realize that you tried it and you made it through. And I think that's a great feeling when like you just force yourself into a situation that you're uncomfortable about and just making it happen.
Yeah, dude. So all those shitty experiences have to happen so the good ones feel so great. What attracted you to go back on that and to come back here and kind of leave Hawaii, number one, and number
Right.
two, like what's attractive about what they're doing that you can kind of that you want to be involved.
Well, I think I had 13 winters in Hawaii, and as much as I love the ocean, I felt like it was just like a chapter in my life that I had to progress on.
Okay.
So surf photography to me is like, I realized, is kind of a selfish thing. Like, you are capturing the ocean, but also it's like it doesn't necessarily do that much good for the better of the world. It does because you're sharing the beauty of the ocean, but
Right.
There's a selfish side to it. So the great thing about Faraday that they didn't really have before was a mission. Mike knew he wanted to design clothes. Alex knew he wanted to run a successful company. Then when Carrie, Alex's wife, came in, she kind of started to develop more of a mission for the company, like the social impact side and
Very cool.
sustainability. And in the last couple of years, they started to really promote that voice for the company, and that kind of excited me because it kind of created a mission for what they were doing and a way to help them bring that to life. And aside from just making clothes, it's also about what you're doing for the world and how you make people feel.
And yeah, that's how most brands are these days.
Right.
Like we kind of touched on that before. Like, if you're making money and the rest of the world wants to know what are you doing for the world with that money, rather than just putting it in your pocket, right? And you said
Right.
the billionaire CEO is like
Yeah.
looked down upon.
Yeah. So, I was doing a project for Surf Mag in Rockaway a couple weeks ago, and I ran into creative director for an agency. He's from Italy, but he comes here to New York. He interacts with the board of directors for VF Corp, who owns like Vans shoes. They own North Face. And I was like, he's like in his late 50s. I was like, what in your experience would you recommend for a brand these days to do to be successful? And he was like, you have to be sustainable. If you're not sustainable, like, don't even bother anymore. I played a big part in like helping start the brand, but then I also had this like huge dream to like chase these global adventures with surf photography, and so I was kind of like, I was always there for the brand, but then I would, like, at the same time I was living in Hawaii for part of the year, and I would just kind of fly in for when we had to gather content. Having that opportunity to be away from the brand allowed me to gain experience with with companies like Patagonia and Vans and other companies, editorials around the world, and go on these amazing adventures and like really start to feel what the soul of a successful brand feels like. Like, people are knocking down the doors to get in with these companies, not because of necessarily what they make as a product, but because of what they're doing and the community that they create and this lifestyle that they embrace, and like everyone just wants to be part of that group,
And it's interesting now, like how that's kind of how that takes form. Like, if you kind of go out there and you do the right thing, more people, I guess it's like kind of like the law of attraction type.
Yeah, it's infectious. Yeah, it creates this viral
Absolutely.
effect.
So you feel good about something, you wear it.
Right.
And people are drawn to that.
And I found a cool interview with Mark Echo. He's actually from Lakewood. He started Echo brand, out of his garage in Lakewood. And one of the things he said,
so crazy, right?
Yeah, it's so crazy. New Jersey peeps going big, but he's built $1 billion business. And he said, his clothing, the product wasn't anything special, but what he said, it wasn't about the clothes that he put on people's backs. It was about how he made people feel. And he was in the whole street art world, and he created these things called swag bombs, which he delivered to certain people that kind of got the word out. But he said it was all about how people felt. Like, he made people feel it drove his success.
That's really cool.
And that's kind of why I'm back, working with Faraday on a bigger level now, is because I really want to inspire them to see that and to help them grow into an international brand and like create these communities and make people feel good.
Do you have an aspiration, like something that you'd like to do after you see your time kind of winding down in Faraday?
I definitely have a vision for something that kind of changes the way we think about news every day, and instead of all this negativity, like trying to find something that's more about positivity and unbiased reporting, and like how can we relate that into all different pillars of life, from the ocean to social impact to technology, whatever it is, but not just waking up every day and seeing who was murdered and what bomb went off, but like seeing who's like made the most strides in like in some medicine or something like that.
Yeah. There has to be more of that. All those cheap emotions, hate, anger, they're easily bought and sold, all that shit is just, it's easy. People eat it up, man. Fear is so easily eaten up. Now I think as health and wellness becomes a focus in our society, that a lot of people are going to realize that there's a lot of strength in admitting a lot of those things. Like for me, I got to look at, like sitting in a hospital bed, like having a doctor being like, Darren, like you're gonna die if you don't clean up your shit is a lesson that I can't unsee.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you get you get this feeling that life really is like this precious thing, and time is really valuable. Like what a heavy conversation about time. Like, people are like, oh, you got time, but time's going to run out, so that's why it's like really important to like be present.
Yeah. No, time is literally the most valuable thing we have in our lives. It's more valuable than money. It's, you can't get more of it.
No.
It's like we each have a certain amount, but we have no clue how much we have. So it's like this invaluable resource.
Yeah, man. If you want to keep it, you got to give it away.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer in that, man.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
And give it away in a sense that that you really don't expect anything back.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do something like selflessly. And, I'll be real with you. There was a part of my life where I just did not understand that concept. You know what I mean? I was just so driven in the wrong way. That it almost eventually killed me, all like going through all that stuff. It takes you to a different place, but you're born into this new thing, and it's really beautiful. And I think you going ahead and launching something that just solely focuses on that, I think is really, really beautiful, and on a grander scale, because we kind of touched on it on the way over about what you're trying to do, and I think that's like. It's super cool. Like, it's infinite.
And one thing my dad said, I was probably a teenager at the time. He's like, there's 3 things that everyone needs to be happy in life. And like, one of them is someone to love. It could be your dog, could be yourself, whatever. You just need that one pillar. The other one was something to do. It's like a career, like something to keep you busy in your mind every day. And the third one was, I think, which is the most powerful, is something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. And that's like, what are you chasing? What's your mission? Like, what are you working for? And like, you're either working to like, for your family, or to raise your family, or to complete a goal, or to, have a career aspiration. But if you don't have that thing to chase as one of your pillars, then it all falls apart. You need all 3 at the same time.
Absolutely.
And moving to New York City, now I'm living here in New York City. I never thought I would live here. And I found that once I moved here, like all the amazing people and the things and the events, and it was so powerful that now I'm like comfortable being here, and I see so much opportunity with it, and different connections and ways to build things out, and it's pretty cool. I never thought I would be near Wall Street. Now literally my office is next to Wall Street.
That's cool, man.
But it's all for a good cause. So
yeah, dude, that's amazing. Could tell them real quick where you can be found online.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Really fun. I never get to really talk about this stuff, but yeah, you can find me online. I have a small little website. I haven't updated in like 2 years, but it's my first and middle name, mattpaul.cc. I have an Instagram, also Matt Paul. Yeah, you can find me in New York, in the ocean.
Nice, dude. Yep. All right, cool. That was our second episode of Longshots. We will be releasing this sometime before Thanksgiving if Carmine gets his shit together. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.